Since the beginning of the space race, nations have been rushing to tap into this limitless potential, and Africa is no exception. Leading these efforts from East Africa is Kenya, a country strategically located at the equator, making it a prime location for undertaking space endeavors. At the forefront is the Kenya Space Agency, an entity mandated to promote, coordinate, and regulate space-related activities in the country in a bid to explore possibilities beyond the skies.
By 2030, the space economy will be in the region of $1 trillion US. I mean, that is why every country is going to that area, and Kenya will not be left behind.
Kenya's involvement in space activities dates back to the 1960s, when Kenya partnered with Italy to establish a satellite launching and tracking base in Malindi.
One on the west coast, and the one on the west coast, Malindi, you can see that the telescope will be separated more or less over this Malindi station, and this Malindi station will also acquire the telemetry data from the telescope.
This has been instrumental in positioning Kenya as a player in the global space scene.
Those who launch satellites in the Americas have to be supported by the Malindi Space Center because of how strategic we are. When there is a launch of satellites, this Malindi Space Center becomes very critical because we are along the equator, we are on the ocean, we are far east.
The center provides training programs for personnel involved in space operations and as well as students on attachment or internship, therefore offering educational initiatives to enhance the skills and knowledge of professionals in the space industry.
The Kenya Space Agency has achieved significant milestones in Earth observation, space systems engineering, disaster risk mitigation, among others.
Kenya Space Agency has been able to establish itself as a premier institution in promotion and coordination of space-related activities in the country. The early years focused on institutional development and grounding with focus on having resource instruments, capacity building, development of the strategic plan, and other enabling policy and strategic documents necessary for operationalization of the agency.
We work with stakeholders to demonstrate use of geospatial tools, applications, and space-derived datasets to develop decision support products. Such products include in-season crop mapping, crop condition monitoring, and crop yield estimation.
And in this regards, what we're trying to do is set up what we're calling the data hub. So the data hub will have three elements. It will have the data portal, it will have a data cube, and it will also have a data knowledge hub. And the intention of that is to bring together the different data sets that are of geospatial nature and also non-geospatial that are relevant for decision support.
We are also supporting the county governments in their spatial plan, whereby the agency aim to provide a high resolution imagery to support the counties in their spatial planning.
In space systems engineering, we have developed a number of projects. Key among them is Taifa 1 satellite, which we recently launched for Earth observation. In addition to this, we have a regional project called African Development Satellite Initiative, as well as a climate camera project that is a payload to be hosted on the International Space Station.
And Kenya's Taifa 1 satellite was successfully launched this morning.
Taifa 1 separation confirmed.
One of the notable achievements is the development and launch of Kenya's satellite Taifa 1 and the construction of a ground station to provide critical data for environmental monitoring, agriculture, and urban planning.
So that ground receiver is able to receive data from the satellite, the other observation satellite that we launched, but also even receive data from other satellites that would be working with other partners. That is very, very significant development.
Ground stations are key because with this, we can be able to test our trial satellites. We can be able to acquire data from other satellites, and the large sphere in terms of space operations, space systems and data acquisitions can be performed right away from the Kenyan soil.
The Climate Camera project, also known as the CLIMCAM project, is a joint project between Kenya Space Agency, Egyptian Space Agency, and the Uganda National Space Program. And the aim of this project is to collect data and information over the Eastern African region for the purpose of addressing climate change and mitigating its impacts in the region.
The Safari-1 primary mission is to capture low-resolution Earth images using onboard cameras and test the transmission of data between the nanosatellites or the CubeSatellites on board and the ground station at higher altitudes.
We have instruments that monitor the near-Earth space environment, such as the GNSS receiver, which provides ionospheric electron content data that is responsible for the refraction of radio signals as they traverse towards the Earth. This causes inaccuracies. We also have the Ionosonde, which provides data on the optimum operational frequency during high-frequency communications or broadcasts.
Monitoring and tracking space debris is crucial in ensuring the safety of satellites by predicting possible collisions that may damage satellites and affect these services.
The agency is also a part of the new observatory for real-time ionospheric sounding over Kenya, which has resulted in the design and development of a new ionospheric observatory in Malindi, Luigi Blogrio Space Center. So all this data will then be used to forecast the likelihood of space weather events such as solar flares and geomagnetic storms, and then the information will be shared with relevant stakeholders.
The one new nanosatellite is a 10 by 10 by 10 centimeter platform that incorporates different subsystems. The main challenge is that the ADCS component for this subsystem is not that active, so it's passive. We are using a permanent magnet to be able to align its orientation with respect to the Earth's magnetic field. But for the 3U nanosatellite platform, we're going to have 3 of these which are stuck in a vertical configuration, so in such a way that we can be able to have more complex active and determination control subsystem.
Nakuja Rocket Project is an initiative of students at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, JKUAT, which is supported by both the Kenya Space Agency and Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA. The project aims to develop a liquid propellant rocket capable of reaching space. Now in its third phase, the focus is on achieving technological qualification by conducting test launches with solid fuel.
In Nakuja project, the students from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, JKUAT, and Kenyatta University, KU, are developing a rocket. Today, we are launching our third model, what we call N3 rocket, which aims to reach around the 2,000 meters altitude. In Nakuja project, we are partnering with Kenya Space Agency. Today, we are privileged to be supported by KSA and also KDF, so we can be able to launch our rocket.
Data is a really important resource within the nation. At the Kenya Space Agency, we are trying to leverage on space-derived data to support decisions. So some examples of data that we're currently working with is space weather data, which is looking at the sun and how it's affecting life on Earth. This data is important within the aviation industry. It's also important within power companies.
We've been able to develop books which have simplified the language, the complex language of these particular terms and everything that happens in there to a level which young learners are able to digest and understand. The first edition of those books is already published and in distribution. Whenever we do our outreach programs, we are working on publishing the second edition that should be out by the end of the year.
Kenya Space Agency has developed a Kenya Space Policy and is currently in the process of finalizing Kenya Space Bill in line with international space laws. This is generally to guide the conduct of space activities in the country.
The technical area being a very expensive area, we've also been able to get some sponsorships from our other agencies like the Egyptian Space Agency, the Italian Space Agency, and even UNOSA, where we have exchange programs that the officers are able to be trained. on an exchange program.
The Corporate Directorate is charged with ensuring that the agency carries out promotional activities that defines its corporate identity, create public awareness of its mandate, and the significance of space technologies and application for the national development and societal benefits.
It continues to strengthen its stand in the continent through partnerships and collaborations with international organizations, space agencies, government departments, agencies, and county government, as well as private sector stakeholders.
So we needed Kenya Space Agency as an agency, a national agency that will coordinate with many other international space agencies so that they have a collaboration, and that will allow us as Kenyans to access to that Earth observation or satellite data at affordable prices.
Kenya Space Agency, in collaboration with its partners, is able to advise me, for instance, your soil has this profile. Just go there and ground truth the same and tell me whether that is true, so we can actually have data that is beneficial for us, so that if we get an image from Kenya Space Agency or we get data from you, we can actually be able to analyze and actually come to the same conclusions as your own analysts can be able to do.
With now the ability that is provided through technology, we can actually leverage on using space science to monitor our environment in real time, to get the predictions for the future, those capabilities can only be provided through space science. So our partnership with Kenya Space Agency is going to elevate us to that level where we are able to utilize science in its refined and futuristic form to inform the decisions we make today.
The university management is also very happy to host this facility, and is always willing to give, and have always given the necessary support that it requires to succeed. And we also want to thank the CEO for the Kenya Space Agency, Brigadier Kipkosgei, for the kind of support that he has given, and also generally for the general understanding that we host this facility here.
Taifa 1 was a maiden mission and is the first of many missions that we intend to do as Sayari Labs. It's a 3U nanosatellite that was launched in April of 2023. The mission was for Earth observation, where it provides valuable data to enable us to solve problems in Kenya, for example, in agriculture, in forestry, as well as in urbanization.
Sayari Labs, we are a space systems engineering company that is focusing on satellite engineering, and we work very closely with the Kenya Space Agency in a bid to use the technology that we are developing to address challenges that affect Kenya and the rest of Africa in areas such as agriculture, urban planning, security, among others.
Small-scale crop mapping project is a project by the Kenya Space Agency as a grant to Taita Taveta University. And the project aims to tackle the food security concerns in the country by employing new technologies such as machine learning and artificial intelligence.
The Kenya Space Agency envisions a future where space technology is central to the nation's development, driving innovation, economic growth, and sustainable development. The journey has just begun, and the possibilities are as vast as space itself.